Hey Foothills family, I hope you're enjoying our 30 days in the book of Psalms. And today I'm bringing one of my favorites, Psalms 42, which I find to be both convicting and encouraging. Let's get right into it. Psalm 42, verses 1 and 2 read, "As the deer pants for the water brooks, so my soul pants for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God?" I love this picture that this psalm begins with of this deer looking for water. And Israel is a pretty dry climate, a lot like Southern California. And so finding water for the deer, it's not optional. It's not this casual endeavor. No, this deer, it says it's panting for water. There's a sense of desperation there. And then the psalmist continues and he goes, "So my soul longs for you, O God." And that to me is a bit of a gut punch because if I'm honest, I don't long for God like this enough. I wish this defined the way I sought the Lord more and more often. But let's be real, like it's convicting. I want this. And despite living in an area that we do where it is pretty dry, but if we're thirsty or we want water, we can just walk to the faucet and turn it on, or we could go to the store and buy cases of water. And all of this, it allows us to take water for granted. And we can do the same thing in regards to the accessibility of God. You know, at our higher ground clubs, I teach on this chapter, and I usually introduce it by giving a bunch of students 4 saltine crackers. And then I challenge them. I say the first person to eat all 4 saltine crackers and whistle gets a prize. And hilarity ensues. I would encourage you to try this at home, but if you do it, hot tip, do it somewhere where it's easy to clean up cracker crumbs because they're going to go everywhere. But what's funny is what replaces the student's desperation to win is quickly a desperation for a drink of water or something. They really get thirsty. And of course, then I start to introduce how that's what this psalmist is talking about, how they long for the Lord just like that. You know, I want to keep reading, but the psalmist, we see they're in a desperate time in their life. And that's why the glaring perceived absence of God is causing them to cry out. So let's read verses 3 and 4. They say, "My tears have been my food day and night, while they say to me all day long, 'Where is your God?' And these things I remember, and I pour out my soul within me. For I used to go along with the throng and lead them in procession to the house of God, and with the voice of joy and thanksgiving, a multitude keeping festival." So we find the psalmist, they're a worship leader. And they used to lead, or maybe they still do even, a bunch of people in worship. And I don't know, but I'm assuming they thought that position would save them from the struggle that they're dealing with. But it doesn't. We all go through seasons like this. And so he's in this time of despair. And then in verse 5, what starts to happen is the psalmist starts talking to himself. Now, I encourage you to do this. One, so I don't look as crazy, but our words have power. So if done properly, this could be really encouraging and even life-giving. So we're going to read verses 5 through 8. It goes on, he says, "Why are you in despair, O my soul, and why have you become disturbed within me?" And then get this, he's commanding himself. He goes, "Hope in God, for I shall again praise him for the help of his presence. Oh my God, my soul is in despair within me. Therefore I remember you in the land of the Jordan and in the peaks of Hermon and from Mount Mizar. Deep calls out to deep." He's saying these low places are met with other low places. At the sound of your waterfalls, all your breakers and all your waves have rolled over me. The Lord will command his loving kindness in the daytime, and his song will be with me in the night, a prayer to the God of my life. You know, even there in verse 6, he says, "Even though I'm in this time, therefore, because I'm in this time, I remember you." And he's declaring that despite his struggles, he is going to hope in God. He is going to remember God's promises. And verse 9 and 10, they get even deeper. This guy he's dealing with some depression here. And so those read, and we're almost done with the chapter. He says, I will say to God, my rock, why have you forgotten me? Why do I go mourning because of the oppression of my enemy? As a shattering of my bones, my adversaries revile me, forgive me, while they say to me all day long, where is your God? Some of those things maybe we've uttered to God ourselves. In desperate times, we've asked God, where are you? And this guy's in a difficult position, but verse 11, we end this chapter in a really high note. He says, why are you in despair, O my soul? Why have you become disturbed within me? Hope in God, for I shall yet praise him, and the help of my countenance and my God. I started by saying this chapter is convicting because it talks about a desperation that I want more of in my life. But it's also encouraging because it shows that even in difficult times of desperation, we can choose to hope in God. We can choose to remember his goodness, and we will find it. And he will lift us up. Guys, I want to encourage you, wherever you're going through, let's choose and let's declare over our lives hope and the promises that God has for us. Be blessed, Foothills.